eliminating poverty. By fostering sustainable industry in rural areas, impoverished households can increase income and improve home capital to remove out poverty. Supplementing transportation. Rural transportation has been underfunded, facing problem of low quality. 32% of the rural highways are in poor condition and unresistant to disasters. In 2020, over 81,000 kilometers of country road are too old to sustain quality service and need repairing. Only 115 lines has passed the inception, which is not enough for state road networks. In fact, it is more convenient and less expensive for people to travel and transport or produce if road networks is in good shape. This is not only in expanded opportunity to sell products, but also increased productivity and profits. So point B, e-commerce. In recent years, e-commerce spread into rural areas, creating economic opportunity for the rural poor, and it's requiring more spending to expand the benefit to all rural poor. Civil e-commerce requires infrastructure such as highway, warehouse, and most importantly, internet and broadband. In 2020, 463 million Chinese people still don't have access to internet. China's internet penetration rate was low at 58%. The main setback is the slow progress of internet infrastructure in the remote regions. Government to build digital and physical infrastructure that enables people to transact online and move goods at low cost. Impacts first, online transaction and e-commerce related services greatly contributed to local household disposable income, or creating new jobs directly and indirectly. More than 1.2 million people are out of poverty in Henan province because of e-commerce. Secondly, it has encouraged rural residents to actively participate in the market economy. Contagion to implement. Increasing employment is the most effective and direct way to get rid of poverty. Additionally, long-term employment can also effectively solve the intergenerational transmission of poverty. Increased spending in different industries will lead to significant employment. 7.8 TBE. TVE, which stands for Township and Village Enterprises, employs a total of 127 million people, accounting for 25% of the rural labor force. TVs are publicly owned, yet are also the property of the local residents. However, TVs have very limited access to loans from the formal financial system, and the need for funding is urgent. The jobs don't require high-level education, thus, most workers are from the countryside with little training and skills, which is stable for the poor. Support B, road network. Expanding the road network directly leads to more employment. A 10% increase in the saleability leads to a 3% increase in the number of businesses and employment. Positive impact on labor productivity. Value added on wages with individual firms has created around 30,000 jobs in the construction sector of the poor houses. Meanwhile, the Rural Road Management Institute in Gansu Province have 13,000 rural highway maintenance supervisors. These jobs don't require much labor work. Currently, there are still 529 million unemployed in China. Investing in public infrastructure could largely decrease the unemployment rate and lead to a significant amount of poverty reduction. Contention 3, education. 7.8, overcrowding. The number of rural primary schools dropped by more than half. More than 40% of the classes in primary and middle schools were oversized. In Henan, the average class is more than 100 students. The estimated classes found out that students in classes that were smaller performed 22% better on standardized tests than regular test classes. Graduation after attending small classes for 4 years increased by 80%. Since overcrowding has a negative effect on students' academic performance, if welfare cannot solve this, the only possible solution is to build more permanent schools, reduce the classes, and increase quality of education, which will then invest in students' personal capital and lead to alleviation of poverty. Subpoint B, disabled children. In China, children with disabilities face significant difficulty in accessing education. The rate of school dropouts for children with disability is 35%. A lack of accessibility and reasonable accommodation on campuses in schools represent barriers to students with disabilities. Moreover, the government has policies that allow colleges and universities to restrict candidates with disabilities. The solvency is special schools. Although there are already some special schools in China, but these are usually limited to a certain type of category and disabilities. And this number of schools is very limited. In addition, many students have to move away from their families because the school is far away. Because of this, these children are isolated from the general population and their own families. We're advocating spending on infrastructure to build more special schools, increase spending on public facilities for disabled children in order for them to have proper education, which directly link to their chance of employment and opportunities in the future. For all of these reasons above, we will urge a firm ballot.
Pro-constructive.
Right, is everyone ready? Good. My time starts now. To affirm the resolution definition, according to Macmillan Dictionary, welfare refers to care provided by state or another organization for people in need. And for framework, we agree that our impact should be sustainable and also the impact should go to minorities. Convention 1, education, supplementing education quality. Currently, there's a severe lack of rural teachers in China, and volunteer teachers are seen as a solution by the Chinese government, according to South China Morning Post 17. However, volunteer teachers in rural areas usually experience burnout and due to oversized classes while only receiving a monthly allowance of 600 yuan. Given the low low salary and inadequate welfare, experts say the situation in rural schools has not improved in the past 2 decades. In order to encourage high-quality teachers to teach in rural areas, the Jack Ma Foundation was founded and it launched a Rural Teacher Award to honor 100 top teachers around the country each year, giving them each 100,000 yuan. In 2016, the foundation announced a rural headmaster plan to recognize the 20 deserving headmasters a year, offering each of them 500,000 yuan to lift their standard of living, improve their leadership skills, and to improve their schools' facilities. Impact: the Chinese Education Society Journal 18 finds the students of regular higher paid teachers outperform their contract lower paid counterparts in Chinese language scores, academic aspirations, and diligence and completing homework, which means that by improving the quality of teachers and quality of education, we can improve students' academic performance and therefore improve the quality of their jobs in the future. So point B, affordability. According to education philosophy and theory, receiving advanced education reduce poverty incidence by 15%. However, a project partner of 16 finds that only about 40% of rural students in China even attend high school, which means that roughly 15 million rural students do not attend high school. Welfare solves this by providing rural students with education assistance so that they can afford school. In 2014, educational assistance became a national policy after the Interior Measure for Social Assistance was issued. The state required local governments to provide educational assistance to those who are covered by DBAL. As a result, national data indicates that the enrollment ratio of school-age children in 2014 reached more than 99% additional. In addition, the adult illiteracy rate dropped to around 5%. So point C, 12-year compulsory education. CGTN 17 writes that the program in Xinjiang provides 12-year compulsory education for students, which is 3 years more than compulsory education in the majority of Chinese students receive. Beijing Review writes the Ministry of Education has encouraged more economically developed regions to introduce a 12-year compulsory education scheme, while stating that compulsory education should be completely free. Impact: Global Census in 20 writes that education increases earnings by roughly 10% per each additional year of schooling, which means that by increasing compulsory education to 12 years, we can at most increase the students' future income by 30%. Moreover, increasing education improves healthcare as well. Shi 08 writes that having completed high school instead of middle school reduces the probability of being unhealthy by 14.4%. While many people have fallen into poverty because of bad health conditions, increasing education and being healthy raises income by 12%. 102, disabled. Penn State University 18 writes there are currently around 83 million people with disabilities in China, and 21% of those are living off of less than 37 cents a day. There are 2 ways to increase spending on welfare can help them. First of all, the majority of the disabled don't have any source of income due to disability. 620 writes that less than 10% of people with autism are employed, while Financial Times 18 finds that 93.5% of the disabled population in China is unemployed. By giving the disabled special vocational training, China has lifted 2.5 million disabled women out of poverty by the end of 2019. And by increasing spending on this welfare project, more poverty will be alleviated. The second way to help disabled is to give them direct aid. Giving disabled social assistance is the most direct way of lifting them out of poverty. And the current Chinese welfare policies for disabled primarily include living allowances, access to medical services, social security initiatives, tax breaks, and scholarships for disabled students. For example, at the end of 2019, over 10.5 million disabled women have received living and or healthcare allowances. And as we increase spending on these programs, the 21% of the disabled population that are currently in poverty will be pulled above the poverty line. And thus, based on these 2 conditions, we're proud to affirm. Thank you.
Before crossfire, we'd like to call for a few cards. Number 1 is that like 99% of people are enrolled in 2014. Number 2 is how 21% of disabled people are living off 37 cents a day. Thank you.
Hey host, please run the evidence check time. Can you also give us the card? Because like we don't want to go into the article and find what you've used ourselves. Thank you.
Ms. Crossfire?
Yes. Yeah. So if you're ready, my time starts now. So first question, can you please tell us the link of how all the drops of the enrollment rate are due to the school
Drop
fee?
Wait, do you mean the increase in enrollment rate? Right.
No,
so
you're saying that enrollment rate is dropping because they cannot afford the school fee.
I said currently 15 million students still don't access secondary education, and the only way to help them is through welfare. We told the enrollment has increased to 99%.
We actually want you to prove that they don't go to school because they're lacking the money to actually go to school. Because from
Right, so we tell you that almost 100% of all people go to primary school, right? But they don't go to high school because high schools are not included in compulsory education.
Okay, but you cannot just link the two evidence together and assume that they all don't go to high school because of the school fee. Because here we wrote in the rebuttal speech about how they are not going to school because of other reasons. You can have your question.
Sure. My question for you is: you mentioned about special schools for disabled people in your condition 3 subpoint B. So do disabled people need to pay for those special schools?
No, they don't.
Why? Right. So can you provide us with the evidence after Crossfire to say that it's completely free?
Yeah, sure. And so another question. So how many aid are you planning to advocate for each disabled people, as you mentioned in your contention too?
For the poverty line set by the Chinese government is that people need to earn 2,400 yuan a year to be pulled out of poverty. That's the amount of money we're giving.
Okay, so it's 2,400 for each.
Yeah. My question for you is: in your condition 2 subpoint A about TVE, what exact infrastructure do you need to increase the number of TVEs?
Okay. So basically, our TV is talking about so basically, first we need to increase internet. We need to increase roads for action because TVE is an air. Those to actually develop their company. The company is supported by the government. Therefore,
why do you need roads to develop those companies?
They need roads and internet to actually develop it because
companies have internet.
No, they don't have internet. The penetration rate is only 68%.
Okay, sure. You can have the question.
Okay, sure. You talked about so your first contention talked about quality teachers. Can you please prove to us how those teachers don't go to rural areas to teach because West?
Right, because the reason why they're not going to rural areas is that they only receive a monthly allowance of 600 yuan per month. That's why we need to increase welfare.
They only receive 600, but they did not say that they don't go there because it's only 600, and we have evidence proving that they actually don't go because of other reasons.
Um, 20 seconds prep.
Wait, so can you guys send us the card saying that disabled people don't need to pay for special schools?
Oh, yeah. Please pause our prep and open the evidence chat time. There you go. We can start, we can start our
Wait, just a second. Like, in which part of this article does it talk about like education specifically? Do you have like a paragraph or something? Because
we didn't
it's a-
include it, so we need to click into the article and find it ourselves too, because we
okay,
didn't
sure.
put that part in this.
Do you have the cars? Do you have the cars that cut?
Okay, so
No,
for this
no.
source, we cut cards for other parts that we put in our K. Don't have the part that they asked for, cut it out. So like it will be such a waste of time if we actually go and read the article again and find the card for them. So can we just resume our rebuttal speech if they don't mind? If you actually really want it, we can find it for you.
Sure,
Or
you
can
can
we just
go on.
Okay, let's just resume.
Everyone ready? Wait a sec, let me start my timer. Right. So our rebuttal speech starts in 3, 2, 1. Go. Let's move on to their first contention. They talked about educational quality. First, they talked about teachers. They say that teachers suffer from oversized classes, and we need to give teachers money to go to these rural areas. Several responses for that. Number one, the oversized classes can only be solved by infrastructure. We tell that overcrowding is a huge issue, and we saw that by building more infrastructure, building more schools, giving more classrooms to these students to go there. We actually increased their graduation rate by 80%. Moreover, we tell that infrastructure solves the problem of teachers. We say that according to Chinese officials, improved living conditions attracted more teachers to rural areas. The teachers don't go there because of their lack of living conditions, because of bad infrastructure in these rural areas. That's exactly why we need to increase spending on infrastructure in order to solve the teacher shortage. Secondly, they talked about affordability. They say students don't have the money to go to school. Several responses. Number one, they gave us the evidence where they say the enrollment rate is already 99%. We don't see why they still have a big impact if the enrollment rate is already 99%, but let's just rebut them anyway. We tell them, first of all, welfare does not solve dropout. 40% of the 7th grader receiving scholarship or still ended up dropping out. The students saying that the scholarship did not have a significant impact on their schooling choices, and vice versa, quality concern are the primary factor motivating students to drop out. And also, we tell you that welfare is already enough. China invested over 188 billion yuan to help 96 million students enroll in schools, to 28.5 billion yuan on boarding subsidies for students already spent. That means it covers all level study and guarantees those who are poor parents can receive an education. Thirdly, they talked about compulsory education, but Judge, do notice that in their speech, they talked about how they should invest in the 12-year compulsory education in more economically advanced regions such as Beijing and Shanghai. That means it's not even topical because we're talking about the poor people in this region. Moreover, we tell the university right now can refuse disabled children, so the solvency should still lie in the concept because we provide special schools to these disabled people more directly, and they cannot even stop. They're not even topical. Now, moving our second contention about how they solve disabled people. Firstly, we tell them not all disabled people are poor, so you should not get scared by the big number of 83 million people who are disabled. But let's just move on. Like they say that these people face a problem of unemployment. We say that we're the ones who are directly solving unemployment because we directly create jobs. But we also tell that jobs we create don't even require labor. We say that we create 30,000 jobs of road maintenance that doesn't even require labor, so it can be offered to these disabled people. Moreover, we tell that the funding is already enough for disabled people. They say that we have to give them direct aid by giving them living allowances. We tell you over 10.5 million disabled women have received living or healthcare allowances. Moreover, 3.8 million received the government subsidy, covering 93.6%. So thus, we can see that their impact is not that large because their skill is already covered. We don't see an urgent need to increase spending. Moreover, they tell we have to train these people to give them vocational training. Several responses. Number one, receiving vocational training, acquiring skill, and finally getting a job require a relatively long period. While the four can't afford that much time wasted in school, not getting income. So thus, we give them better solvency by giving them direct job. Moreover, we tell that under circumstances of status quo, COVID-19 pandemic led to 19% contraction in consumption in China. That means the firms contract and scale down production to remain profitable, and the job supply is very low, irrespective of education and skills of individual. Lastly, we tell that vocational school don't even work because don't teach people marketable skills. Teachers pay more attention to making sure people check in by touching fingerprint scanner before entering and after leaving the classroom so as to report to the government. Thus, we don't actually see any impact, and they don't how many specific jobs they provided to these people. How can they ensure that everyone who received their vocational training actually got a job after and then got out of poverty? Last, we tell we solve the disabled children's problem by giving them special schools because the only cited reasons for them to drop out is number one, accommodation not enough. Number two, special schools not enough. Thus, the solvency lies on the con, and you're voting for the con. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone not ready? Okay. Our time starts now. First, moving on to first contention about e-commerce. First subpoint is about transportation, lack of transportation. First response that transportation practices actually harm the economy because Oxford Professor Kutz writes that over half the infrastructure investment in China made in the past 30 years have brought less economic benefits than their original cost. And two, transportation is already sufficient. China Transportation Ministry 2007 shows that 98.54% of tiny villages and towns are already connected by highways, which they require for e-commerce. Moving on to the second subpoint about e-commerce specifically, our opponents are talking about they need internet. However, Judge will tell you that CGT and 2020 reports that China's e-commerce has already covered over all 832 state-level poor counties, and since 2019 reports that 98% of villages are already covered by 4G network and optical network, including broadband. Which means that, Judge, even if they want to like create more internet, simply goes to waste because the entire almost the entirety of China is already covered by internet. We don't see an incentive to increase spending from the status quo. And second, we tell that e-commerce actually makes farmers more vulnerable because Bill 2020 explains that the original network is made up of many levels of commissioners and middlemen who have incentive to help farmers succeed because number of their farmer clients is very small. However, e-commerce has driven this informal network away and replaced it with a huge institution that doesn't care about farmers who will fail, but only benefits those who succeed. As a result, farmers are extremely vulnerable. Many lose assets in the face of hard recovery, which is in the case of our opponent's side. Moving on to the second contention about employment. Subpoint A about TVEs. Refers to Judge, we tell that TV has a low employment rate. Donaldson 2007 shows that even though TV does not alleviate poverty under favorable conditions, it has not been largely successful in China. TVs in 120 of China's poorest counties only employ 4% of local rural labor. And two, we tell you that TV is risky with little government regulations. Swin 2007 shows that over 40% of TVs are fully privatized, with only 14% of enterprise remaining under government control. Privatization leads to lack of management from a good central government and also lack of safety net for failed businesses. As a result, local entrepreneurs are extremely vulnerable to slight financial instability. Site 2015 writes that slightly tighter administration caused 30% of TVs to go bankrupt. And then we tell you that our Thornton 2018 evidence tells you that Chinese business leaders reported growing concerns over their local infrastructure. Transportation infrastructure is now cited by nearly a quarter of businesses as a constraint on growth, which means that actually transportation infrastructure restrains TVE growth instead of boosts it. The second subpoint is about transportation jobs specifically. They never tell you how much they're going to earn. They just assume that okay, once they have a job, they're out of poverty. That doesn't simply make sense when they say that. And second of all, we tell you that infrastructure jobs are dangerous to have poor compensation. According to system, the past decades, many workers have died or suffered injuries because the work is incredibly dangerous. Lu died from breathing toxic fumes while working in Chen Yuan Kui was crushed by foam rocks at site on the railway. Many have to live with lifelong disabilities, and since most workers have no legal contracts, their compensation is incredibly low. And then we tell you that transportation jobs are short term. Kustoring writes that many transportation infrastructure projects are created simply to create jobs, which leads to unnecessary spending on projects that are too fixated on job creation. And the national debt has soared in recent years, which is responsible by the infrastructure projects. Moving on to the last contention about education. For subpoint A about overcrowding. Remember that the affordability is the main problem because Hanam 2009 reports that lack of local revenues leads to school being forced to request an educational fee from students. Many households are unable to afford the fee, leading to lack of compulsory education attendance. And Project Partner 2016 writes that many families simply choose to let their children pursue a trade because they cannot afford education while pursuing a trade is a better financial investment. The solution here is to simply pay for the education for them. And then we tell you that building new schools does not solve overcrowding because the Young 2018 shows that the number of qualified teachers in rural areas has decreased by 1.4 million in just 3 years. In many regions, 7.5 regions are taking care of 1,800 students. Bear in mind that education infrastructure is only building more facilities and providing more positions for people to take. That will decrease the class size, but also increase the demand for teachers. So when there's already teachers on the status quo, especially in rural areas, there won't be enough teachers in the new schools, forcing students to take bigger classes and teachers to take bigger classes. In the end, the solution here is increase spending on welfare and thus attracting more teachers to rural places. And only then will they be access to any other impacts, which is why we urge a pro ballot. Thank you so much. Any prep before cross?
before the crossfire, we will like to have the evidence of 4% in TVEs. The 4%. Yeah, thank you.
Just a sec. I'll send, this is the link. I'll send the card. Wait.
Yeah. Take.
Okay. Do you need any prep for evidence check, or can we start cross?
No.
We could start cross, but just let me restart my timer.
Okay. So if nobody's not ready, our time starts now. You can have
Okay.
the first question.
Yeah, sure. So how much money are you gonna invest in these like disabled people?
I think this like a question was asked before, and my
Yeah, but
answer
like,
stays
no,
the
you
same,
only
right?
provide-
So we will like pay for these people until their like income exceeds the
So
poverty
every
line,
one of them.
right?
Do you realize how big is the number? It's
I'm sure
2.2 trillion in all. Okay, you can have
Okay,
your question.
it doesn't matter because Judge, we tell you that China is capable of spending over $20 trillion. So just because the cost of $2 trillion doesn't mean anything. As long as
Like,
we
you
prove
have
it's
to
effective.
dump in $2 trillion
Moving on to
annually. That's like not financially
annually.
sustainable.
So our
your question.
Bloomberg 2020 shows that in just 2019, China spent more
Yeah.
than $23 trillion, which is annually. Okay, so can we just move on?
Yeah, your question.
Okay, in your contention to subpoint it be about providing 30,000 jobs. You say that these people are put out of poverty. So can you tell me what are the average wages of these workers that you provide jobs for?
What do you mean by like average wages? Because like there
like,
are like
what is the-
different varieties of job. You cannot just give an average, but we
And,
tell you that
okay.
like you're
Can I-
deeper
can
in
I, like,
poverty
change
if
the
you
way
don't
I
even
ask this
have a job.
question
So
to make
at
it
least we
clearer?
gave them a job. On your side, you gave them nothing. They're stuck in unemployment on
Can I
your
have a
side.
quick follow-up here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you say that you give them a job. So what percentage of the 30,000 people who have these jobs were unemployed before they are employed by your programs or your projects?
I don't see why that's relevant.
Why
is that
not
relevant?
relevant? Because you say that 30,000 jobs are provided to these people. However, you show no impact or no link to poverty alleviation. They could be already out of poverty before they're employed, right?
Yeah,
What
but the
exactly
thing
is your
is, we
percentage
tell you specifically for the poor households in our constructive speech. I don't see
for
why
the
you
poor
don't
households.
understand that.
And what percentage
Yeah.
of the 30,000 jobs, 30,000 jobs you created are out of poverty after they are employed?
They are given to these people. Like, wait, what do you mean by like out of poverty? We say that
You
it
say that
directly gave them to the poor households. Like all these people
Okay,
who
so
seek
just
the job,
because they have
at
a
least they
job, they're
got
out of
some sort of
poverty?
income, right? On your side, you don't give them any income. Well, as on our
Why
side, we
not? We
first
give them
gave them
cash
a job.
assistance. We give them
On
cash
your side, you
assistance
don't
and
give them
providing
anything. They
education. They don't.
remain unemployed. On our side, we gave them a job. Can we just move on to the next question?
Sure. We can move
Yeah,
on.
you talked about 98% of villages are covered by internet. But do you realize that aside from those administrative villages, there's still 2.6 million unincorporated villages in China. So how do you guarantee that those places have internet as well?
Okay, you said that there's 2.6 million unincorporated villages. How exactly, when is this? When is like your evidence from? Is it before or after the coverage rate reaches 98%, or is it?
Wait, yeah, the thing is, your evidence talks about 98% in administrative villages. It doesn't even touch the incorporated villages.
I don't think I mentioned administrative. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but it's in that evidence.
Please give me 30 seconds of prep. Oh, okay. There we go. So firstly, off-time roadmap. So basically, what I'm going to do in my summary is to first address some clarification and then move on to summarize the main clashes of this debate. So my time starts now. Clarification source for roads. You talked about how coverage is already enough. However, coverage does not matter. So as long as the roads are in poor condition, as we mentioned, increased spending is still needed because 32% of the roads are in bad condition. 81,000 kilometers of roads can sustain quality service and cannot be put into use. Second, for internet access, you talked about how it is already covered. However, our evidence from 2020 states that 42% don't have internet. There 98% coverage rate evidence is only about administrative villages, which ignore the 2.6 incorporated villages, ignoring the most vulnerable population. Number three, about implement. You talked about how TVE has only 4% of the implement. However, their evidence is in 1990, which is 30 years ago, which is not. So we should not take this into consideration because according to our evidence in the SAS quo, we employed a total of 127 million people, accounting for 25% of the rural labor force. Number four, clarification of transportation. You asked us for how many jobs, and you said that we didn't provide how many jobs that we actually provide. We actually provide 30,000 labor jobs and 13,000 jobs that don't require labor, which can be put into use for the disabilities. Now let's move on to classes. Base classes are employment, education, and disabled. First, implement. We provide you four kinds of four kinds of jobs that all ports can get access to. First, TVE jobs, e-commerce jobs, road jobs, and we also have the jobs that don't require labor but are also road jobs. So all these jobs can be accessed by ports without or with disability, which means that we are actually bigger on scope and bigger on impact for our implement. And you have proved no evidence talking about how welfare can directly lead to employment and lift people out of poverty. Next, moving on to the next class about education. You talk about teachers important. We agree with you, but the ones that are attracting teachers is education. Infrastructure attract high quality teachers. According to the president of Xinjiang, improving living conditions have attracted more teachers to rural areas. So we believe that the impact actually turns to our side, and we're better in education. Moving on to talk about the disabilities. First, we have TVE jobs and non-construction jobs and e-commerce jobs for the disabilities that are looking for a job. However, on your side, you're just giving money to the disabilities. So you said 2,400 each month. So we were going to tell you that 204,000 each month for every single disabled people will be 2.5 trillion annually. This system is not sustainable and it's not feasible for the government to actually invest in. Therefore, we believe that providing them a job that don't requires labor can actually help the disabled people, and also for the disabled children that are not working yet, we have special schools for them because you talked about the 12-year education. However, the law that says university and colleges can reject disabled children. The only solution is special schools. Therefore, we're advocating for spending on special schools. Other conditions falls, and we win on magnitude, scope, and impact. Therefore, this should definitely be a ballot. Thank you.
Before our prep, can we please see the card about 13,000 jobs are like created without the need of labor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the link, and I'll send you the card in a minute.
Sent it already. It's in the chat box.
Oh yeah, she already sent it.
Okay, I see. We can start our prep.
Project vector. Host. I think you need to run project vector. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, is everyone ready? Then my time starts now. Beginning with the first question in this debate, which is about increased spending, whether we should increase spending. Now, so first of all, judges, let's look at the con side. On the con side, we tell that already 98.14% of China are covered by highways, and for e-commerce have already covered all counties, and 98% of China is covered by internet. So we tell that by simply spending within the budget, the Chinese government can achieve 100% coverage in the near future. That's why we don't need to increase spending on the con side. However, on the con side, on pro side, judge, we tell that even though 99% of students already go to school, but there are still 15 million students are not going to school, and they're not included in the budget. The difference between the pro and the con side is that on the con side, once the roads and the internet are both, they are there. You just need to move to another village and build more roads and build more internet. However, on the pro side, the government's budget only provide welfare that cover 99% of the students. That's why we need to increase spending and spend over the budget. That's why simply on this resolution, we tell you that the con side never proved why they need to increase spending. And simply on this clash, we win this debate. The second clash is about disabled people. So they said that special schools are free, but however, they never provided an explicit evidence. And in the article they sent us, it didn't state whether the schools are free or not. But it doesn't matter because the pro side win either way. If the schools are free, then the free education is welfare. But if the special schools are not free, then for those 21% of disabled people who are living on less than 37 cents a day, they need welfare to attend special school. So either way, the pro side access to the impact school, the con does not. And also they said that they provide construction jobs for disabled people and claim that jobs don't require labor. That makes no sense, Judge, because we tell you road maintenance require labor, which means that our opponents are in no way helping those 33 million disabled people in China. The process has a unique impact to those disabled people. The third question is about jobs. So first of all, our opponents, they can't tell us the average wage of those jobs, and also and neither can they prove that how many people are actually lifted out of poverty because of those jobs, because we tell that many of those people that access those jobs are already out of poverty before getting jobs. And also, on the other hand, the pro side gives people education, which includes vocational education. We are the side that gives long-term benefits to those people by elevating their skills. While on the con side, they only create the placements, but don't prove how they are going to fill these placements. That's why the pro side access benefits. The last question is about education. Again, Judge, in their rebuttal, all they said is that 99% of students already go to school. However, they're still not helping 15 million students who do not access secondary education, what the pro side is. And also, they said that teachers need better living conditions in order to live in rural areas. However, Judge, we tell that they still need to pay for the better living conditions, since they still need to pay for their rents. And that's why high salary is the prerequisite of all things. And that's why the benefit is unique on the pro side. And also, they said that scholarships are not helping people. However, that is because scholarships and welfare is not enough. That's why we need to increase spending. And moreover, their rebuttal against our contention about 12-year compulsory education is that we can only do this in economically competent regions. However, Judge, we tell that first of all, there's still urban poverty. That's why we still solve this. That's why, according to Global Citizen 2020, by this convention, we still increase the students' future income by 30%. And also, only when we achieve this policy in urban areas can we expand the benefits to rural areas. Thus, we still have this contention, and we urge a pro ballot based on these clashes.
Prosper. Any prep time?
No.
Okay.
Okay, unmute yourself.
Just to be clear, we will be using the same microphone during grand talks.
Great. Yeah, sure.
Do you hear an echo?
No.
A little bit, but I think that's gonna be fine.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, I guess grand crossfire starts. How can you ensure that everyone who receives your vocation training gets a job if the total amount of job is incredibly low?
Because already there's a labor shortage.
So wait, what?
Our Flannery
Can you speak
2020
louder?
Flannery 2020 evidence tells you that 41% of employers are reporting a labor shortage and a lack of staff as their biggest challenge.
Oh, so we're still giving them labor jobs. Labor shortage.
Oh, not really. Okay, when I talk about labor shortage, it's not about like jobs requiring labor. I'm simply saying that there is the number of people available for these jobs is very low. That is not enough for people to fill these jobs that are created under the staff.
Okay, so what we're actually needing Okay, what we are actually meaning is that in our rebuttal speech, we mentioned how some for people for places that they're lacking labor jobs, they just pull people from vocational training schools and just transfer them to jobs with low wages, and that's why vocational training schools should not be increased spending on. That's like what we meant by
You can
our
have your question.
rebuttals.
You can have your
Question.
Yeah, let's just move on.
Our question:
Mhm,
Do
sure.
teachers still need to pay for their rents and pay for their living, like the cost of a living, when they are teaching rural areas?
Wait, well,
They have to pay for their rent,
Yeah,
pay for
that's
their
why
living.
high salary is a prerequisite for good living condition, right? That's why you need to
Okay,
provide.
but you never gave any evidence talking about how the teachers are on a shortage of sustaining their living in rural areas. You never promote that.
Yeah. Also, we tell you that wait,
Why is
wait.
that not a shortage?
If you don't even have these like proper dormitories, you don't even have these proper schools, then how is the teachers gonna have like good, really good living conditions, right? So the
Okay,
prerequisite
so
is to build more
here's-
infrastructure.
So
Now,
here's
I
the
believe
thing.
it's our question.
Did you just like not ask a question about dormitories?
Wait, what?
You just asked a question about dormitories and furniture.
Not really. We just told you that. No, we just
Just
told you that
explaining.
the dormitories and the good school conditions are prerequisites for the teachers' well-being of their like good
Exactly.
living conditions.
Do they not have
Yeah.
to pay for their living conditions? Because
Wait, what?
Okay, they do. But
okay,
then
then what
okay,
what is the
we
point of
understand what you
giving
mean
them money
because they only have
without paying, or
600.
Uh-huh.
They only have 600 per month, but it's not. You cannot prove that it's their only income source. The 600 is not their income source, and they're not facing a shortage
Let's move on.
of sustaining their living in rural areas. You cannot prove that, and you have no evidence to prove that.
Let's just move on. So our question. So
Okay,
you
that's
told me
another question.
how
Oh, yeah.
affordability is the main problem for students going to school, right? But we tell you that these students themselves cited that the reason for that is not financial reasons. So wait, so
Okay, I
how can
understand.
you ensure
So
that these
here,
programs
so
are
when we talk about like the access to education, they're saying that okay, the reason why people drop out is because of lack of facilities. But then, Judge, we tell you that okay, we're not talking about dropout under the status quo. We're talking about access to education in the first place. When you can't even afford education in the first place to get into the schools, how exactly would you be able to drop out or even finish your
Thank you.
education?
Thanks. So
All our
host-
prep. Thank you.
yeah, just run our prep. Thank you.
Second speaker.
Wait, let me start. Okay, everyone ready? My final focus starts in 3, 2, 1, go. The first and most important voting issue for today is employment. We tell you that currently 529 million people are out of work. Our opponents gave no solvency on how we should stop such a majority of people to get work. They deny our TV evidence by giving evidence in 1990s, which is 30 years ago. But then we tell that we generate a lot of jobs through both requiring labor and jobs that don't require labor. We tell that there's 127 million jobs required by TVEs and 43,000 jobs alone in one province created by road networks. Moreover, we also allow those who don't get employed to get a sustainable income by giving them internet and roads. Their rebuttal doesn't stand because for roads, coverage doesn't matter so long as the roads are in poor condition. We tell them 33% of rural roads are in bad condition. 81,000 kilometers of roads can't sustain quality service. For internet access, evidence from 2020 states that 42% don't have internet. Their 98% coverage evidence is wrong because it's only about administrative villages, which ignore the 2.6 million undeveloped villages, ignoring the most vulnerable population. Their only solvency is about vocational training, which we tell you fail because they don't even teach people the skills required. The only care is about how many people got in, about letting them check in. Moreover, benefit doesn't even exist if the total number of jobs is incredibly low. We are the ones who are solving the problem from the root case, where their problem has to be solved depending on us. Number two voting issue is about vulnerable groups. First of all, education. Their solvencies completely fail because students themselves cited that money is not the reason for them to drop out of schools. Students themselves, even if they're given scholarships, still drop out. So their welfare doesn't solve anything. Moreover, we tell the Infrastructure Act solves because teachers go to rural areas because of infrastructure. They cited infrastructure lacking as a reason for not going to rural areas. Moreover, we tell increased spending is not needed on their side because 99% is covered. Moreover, on this side, we tell special schools. The current reason why they don't school is because special schools are not enough. Infrastructure is the only reason why you should stop that. And also, we provided them with life-sustaining facilities as well. We win on sustainability, we win on scope, we win on solvency, and you are voting for the calm team. Thank you.
I'll take the rest of my prep. Okay, is anyone not ready? Great. My time starts now. Beginning with the issue of education, which is one of the most important voting issues in today's debate. First of all, Judge, our opponents tell you that overcrowding is a real problem and under the status quo. However, we tell you that from the very start of today's debate, we tell you that building more facilities does not solve overcrowding because there's a lack of quality teachers under the status quo in the first place. So the solution here is to attract more teachers. Now, moving on to attracting more teachers. Our opponents tell you that living conditions will attract more teachers. However, they show no examples of how the teachers are actually going to these places because of improved living conditions. On our side, we tell you that by increasing the allowances to 100,000 yuan per person, we have attracted multiple teachers, like 1,000 teachers into rural areas. Therefore, we do have the solvency. And then, Judge, I'm going to talk about living conditions. They still have to pay for the living conditions in the first place. So salary is a prerequisite to everything that they talk about. They do not access the impacts of education while we do. And then they talk about how they are going to drop out of school. But remember, Judge, only when you have access to schools in the first place, only when you have education welfare in the first place, are you able to have the possibility to finish school or drop out of school, right? So our impacts actually come before their impacts, which is why our impacts should be prioritized. And then they talk about 12-year compulsory education is like only in urban cities. It doesn't Judge, it doesn't make sense because, Judge, only when we talk about the 12-year compulsory education, we're expanding it nationwide, and their like rebuttal doesn't negate our solvency at all. Moving on to the second issue about transportation, our opponents tell you that 98% of covered roads doesn't matter because it's bad living bad conditions. However, Judge, tell you that road maintenance is also included in the national budget. And second of all, we tell you that they never show a direct link as to why bad condition, like roads and bad conditions, are not able to sustain e-commerce throughout the entirety of today's debate. Therefore, to drop that from your flow. And then they talk about, okay, your total impact for all transportation is to create jobs, right? So let's talk about creating jobs. Their TV argument, they never said their TV jobs and their 30,000 jobs what the wages are. Therefore, how can they simply assume that, okay, just because they have jobs, they're out of poverty? It doesn't make sense when they say that. The solution here is to provide vocational training. And remember that their 13,000 jobs that they create are not labor-free jobs. They're talking about road maintenance, which also includes labor, which is why our cash assistance solvency is only solvency to disabled people and only solvency to better income and higher salaries, which is why we urge a pro ballot. Thank you so much.
Okay, so can the judges go to the mini program and vote so I can see the result?
Oh, I can't vote on main program. I will just private chat with host.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you so
For those who can you vote on the mini program?
Wait, are we sending to the host?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
don't know.
I am sending to host because of my main program that don't work.
Okay.
No, the thing is that if she cannot vote on the main program, we'll not be able to see the results. So
can all
possibly
of us
with the
send it
host,
privately? Yeah, or send privately.
we will vote on the mini program, but meanwhile we also send to the host so that he or she
Sure.
can announce the results.
Okay, so I will just start with my review first. So I give it to pro, and I think this is a really close debate round. This is a really close round for me, and congratulations for making it to finals. And I think this is a pro side battle for me, so I will basically weigh the impact of this. So on educational quality point, Khan told us because of teachers are afraid of legal infrastructure, so they do not want to come to rural areas, rural places to teach. But what Pro tells us that because our teachers are eager for basic salary and incomes, so if we give them welfare, they will come to rural areas to improve the education quality. So I will give this question points as a type because no one explained the further mechanism of this later. And I feel like the most reason for me to vote for Prozac because of current speech does not make much sense for me. They rebut the education contention from Pro by claiming affordability. And give the example of Shanghai and Beijing. I don't quite understand the direct linkage here. And on job creation, they define their own case by saying the jobs will go to the disabled because of we have jobs like road maintenance. So to my common sense, I do think that this also needs to involve labor forces, and this kind of job could not directly go to the disabled people. And they also give examples on special schools. Unfortunately, I did not see any further elaborations and explanations on that. And continue with question points. I think there are basically 3 question points for my judgment. The first one is effectiveness. I will claim this voting choice as effectiveness, which side is more effective in alleviating poverty. I will give this question point to Pro because of they are able to persuade me with most of the budgets already covered with public infrastructures. At the same time, give clear cards to support 99% of 15 million. So we don't need to increase spendings on that anymore. And Kansai did not give any further responses on that. And second question point for me is disabled people. Kansai told me that the special schools are free, but without providing clear evidence to demonstrate they are actually free. Pro attacked this point by claiming to me that if this education is free, because of welfare system, so they are free. And if this is not free of charge, the disabled need welfare to attend this school. So they actually need welfare system then actually need more welfare system than public infrastructure. So that's why on this point, Pro persuades me a lot. And on the third point is about job creations. Kansai told us they will provide the jobs that do not need to involve labor forces, and at the same time, they will give a lot of transportation jobs, give them also about e-commerce of infrastructure jobs. But Pro said this could not be improved, and Khan did not explain the mechanism in that. So at the end of the day, I think that Pro did a better job in defending their own cases and also attacking their opponents' cases. That's why I vote for Pro. But for me, this is a pretty close debate. But I do think that Kansai needs to improve on your rebuttal speech and explain the direct linkages when you do the impact weighing. And that's basically from our feedback. And thank you so much for debating, and good luck for our future debate rounds.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for debating.
I also voted for the pro side because the pro side have made it very, very clear that those people cannot work and only rely on the bubble system. But the con side didn't really give me the solution. They only offer for disabled people for schools for them to take, but they didn't say that how this disabled people could definitely get a work getting them out of poverty after this job training. And also this concept have admitted themselves that job training sometimes may not be that useful because all of the teachers only care about the presentation of the students instead of whether the students have learned knowledge or not. And also ProSite has proven to me that and these governments are giving extra money for the teachers going to rural areas to educate so that possibly they could receive better education. But the concept, they've only talking about that there are overcrowded schools, and you're talking about that even if there are more money for students, these students are not going to school as well. But you didn't prove that why better facilities could attract more teachers and thus to better the education for people living in the rural area. And then the pro side has talking about giving people jobs are not equal to leave people out of poverty, but giving people this welfare system or this essential training would be more targeted to this people in need, and that is why I voted for the pro side. But the con side also great in giving really clear points in the constructive speech and also in later on rebuttal speeches on how infrastructure is useful in different aspects of the community. I really appreciate that you have this attitude for academic researches and giving us with all of the sourceful and reasonable data to all of these points we want to make. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm gonna say.
So I will continue with my comment. I also give it to the pro side. I do think this is a close debate, and I didn't make my decision until the very end of your final focus. I do admit that the con side, you did really a good job on academic research on how you pick up your evidence and challenge how your opponent's evidence are invalid or something like that. But I do give it to a pro because there is several correlation, or I should say causation, that on the con side I could not agree with. First of all, I personally don't think I will go to a school to teach because the infrastructure or the facility there is good. I will only go to school either because they give me high salary or I like that place myself. I will not go to a place to teach student only because the infrastructure there is good. So I don't think infrastructure can attract good teachers to the rural areas. And second, you can have special education schools, but you don't ensure that the people have money to go to the special education school. And third, you do provide jobs, but I don't think many of them are given, like the process said, especially to the poor people and those people who are vulnerable. So this correlation, or I say causation, that I cannot agree with. So I generally give it to the pro side.
Yes, so I also think that it was a close to call debate, but and that it could have gone to it could have gone either ways, but I gave it to I voted for Corn because I felt that Corn had attacked Poe's argument better, and then they attacked every argument. And also with regards to education, I felt that from the word go, as in with regards to your constructive speech Paul, I felt that you had some sort of contradictions there because I think that with regards to the quality of education, you said that they lack teachers because of overcrowded or oversized classrooms. Then again, if they lack teachers because of oversized classrooms, then why should we give the teachers more money? Why not build more classrooms? That was my contradiction, and I think that Kwan even addressed that part. So with regards to that, I think that I opted for Kwan because with regards to the education, with regards to the education quality and then the vocational education, I think that Kwan did a much better job, even though both of you attacked each other's cases very well. Yeah.
I think we can all agree that this is an incredibly close round. I myself, I voted for the con side, though I have to say, like, I'm still kind of going back and forth and still kind of second guessing my own doubt there, but I did make that instant decision to vote for the con side. I'll state my main reason for vote. My main reason for vote is just I think the pro side's impact are not really that well illustrated. And con side, and also kind of like the final turning point for me is really the final focus. So as I said, this is an incredibly close debate. If I have to make a decision, I need to carefully go back down to every single one of the speech, and especially to see whether your summary and final focus are all consistent with your own voting issues. And I just felt Con had a much better final focus finally. So I feel like the pro team, you have really good points, which definitely, of course, I still believe you deserve the win, even though I did not vote for you. But the point I did not vote for you is that first is on the education point. On the education point, you have 3 subpoints. First is on the this welfare program of having more trained teachers in the place, and this is kind of going against this only logical but unevidence-backed claim that typically infrastructure will attract more teachers. I think you have a little edge over that, but I still think you do not attack the general solvency here. I give a slight edge on this over to you, but the point is, like, even if, let's just consider the final impact, even if you win all of your education argument, note that the final impact you have here is the increase of education quality, and so that students can actually have better academic performance at school, which itself does not really directly correlate to poverty, I have to say. Your second part on your The second part on your school affordability issue, your opponents kind of addressed that. So I will say your opponents probably did not address it in the perfect way. But the bigger problem is that you probably do need to tell me, like, these people, when they drop out of school, it is the you kind of did tell me that it is in some way for a financial reason, but you did not really tell me, like, giving them the money, especially money in what specific aspect will actually help them, incentivize them to going back to school. You do not have this positive link feedback loop. So I have to say this part is not particularly strong for me. And then the third part is about the 12 years compulsory education. Well, talking about poverty, especially when we're talking about the extremely vulnerable, I believe 12-year compulsory education probably too big a goal for you, especially when it's still majorly considered in a lot of metropolitan areas. I think another thing for your final focus, I like your rebuttal a lot. I think your rebuttal really kind of killed it. And I thought when you were done with your rebuttal, I thought you were really just way ahead in this debate. But as to a final focus pinpoint, I think you kind of wasted a lot of point in your defense. For example, I think you wasted a lot of time really just trying to say that, you know what, my opponents demonstrated a lot of the policy deficit in either road construction or internet network or e-commerce, whatever it is. And you know what, they actually do not have that much of a policy deficit. This is what you spend a lot of time in your final focus. This is really not necessary. It does not really make them lose a debate, also does not really make you win this debate. So I think there are a lot of time that are kind of wasted in the final focus that you could really try to focus on a little bit more. I think the concise final focus probably, even if not the best, but probably the second best final focus I've seen this season. So I just want to say congratulations. As to the final reason, the final RFD on the con side that I specifically voted for them, it's mainly on just, I know it's probably not a good way to win, but it's still essentially just a bunch of just throwing you with a bunch of program with a lot of big numbers, which is typically not the way I would like to vote. But given that this is an incredibly close debate, I think the pro side had a lot of good rebuttal to this, but you also kind of dropped all of that after your rebuttal speech. So essentially, when you have a lot of specific evidence to counter against the either TBE arguments or other stuff, I think, yes, it is a very good thing that you have a lot of cards. You have a lot of cards directly against each other, but I think you did not really fundamentally engage with opponents in a really meaningful way. When I say engagement in a meaningful way, I mean you probably need to tell me, like, why specifically your opponent's arguments are necessarily wrong. Know that just because even if you have your own argument standing, it does not necessarily prove your opponent's evidence as fallacious or wrong in any other way. So to me, at least you as judges, it's really just confrontation of different cards, but no comparison is really given. So it's just feel I cannot really give that to any specific point. And given that you did not bring this up again in the later parts of the debate, I partly gave a little bit of just that, a lot of big scary numbers to the con side. And given that, another big point, I understand a lot of judges, they talk about the disability issue. Again, I don't think this appears a lot in your final focus. This is probably not a large point that you have in your final focus. And I'll try to understand that. And one thing for the con side, this is not really me talking with you, but really just maybe more of a question here. So you have this specific evidence on, like, road maintenance. You can create a bunch of jobs on road maintenance that does not require a lot of labor power. I'm personally a little suspicious of the evidence. I did look into the website, and as I looked into it, it was a Chinese website, and like, maybe I was reading too fast, so I missed some part, but like, I did not really find that corresponding quote. So I just have to point that out. I don't know about this evidence. I don't want to make bold assumption, but I did not find that vote. So I did not find that quote. So anyway, but yeah, just for my reason for vote, it feels like the education part was kind of a little bit vague at the end, especially given that con side did have a lot of mitigating factors, and also it was not really directly correlated with poverty. Disability partly dropped in final focus, and also given that con had a really good final focus, I try not to argue for debaters. So yeah, essentially a very slight margin to con side. But yeah, both teams should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Bye.
congrats.
Bye.